Hey everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and today, week 1 is officially in the books. Obviously, did not go as Husker fans would have hoped, but we definitely learned a ton in this first game against Minnesota about this roster. Obviously, we had an infinite amount of questions going into week 1 about the new roster, the new team, the new coaching, the new system, and so much more. And so we're breaking that all down today. The good, the bad, the ugly, and everything we learned in between. It's going to be wild. Caleb, how you doing?
Well, it was a tough loss, Josh, but it was fun being there with you, the road trip experience, except for the parking, which was so bad. Again, they've never experienced people there before, so they had no clue what to do once people finally came into town.
Let's go! INT, baby!
I think we just got to start here on the offensive side, and we'll go position by position, talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just rock with it because there is a lot to go over. So let's start with the lead here, and that is the play, the guy that we wanted to see the most of, and that was Jeff Sims coming over from Georgia Tech, first game starting, and let's just say we learned a lot, and there was a lot to unpack here. I mean, Sims was all over the board, some great, some bad, some ugly. So what are your first initial thoughts on Jeff Sims and his performance in this game? Because it is insane.
Yeah, it's really polarizing right now. Again, he had a horrible pass performance. Me saying that it was ugly is not surprising to anyone because he made some horrible mistakes. But I will say that if you think that he cannot pass the ball, I would pump the brakes. I do think that there is hope for Jeff Sims in a lot of ways. Not even on the blaming of the offensive line. I think one thing we're not taking into account is Minnesota has a really good secondary. And the more I watch, they made some really solid plays. This is going to be one of the better secondaries we see this year. And the throws that Jeff Sims did make or complete, he ended up 11 for 19. Well, actually 14 for 19 if you count the 3 picks. But he was 11 of 19 and in some tight windows. And so I know that the back foot, you just can't do. The into double coverage to Billy Kemp twice, picks, can't do. Not knowing where the safety is, can't do. All those things, ugly. I'm with you. I hear you. It's bad. It's ugly. And it's worrying. But also in the same light, he made some great throws into some tight windows, and he still has the zip and even the deep shots. Again, I've seen
not many in this game.
Yeah, I mean, even with Alex Bullock, the broken play, he has the wherewithal to be like, my guy's still there.
Right.
Free touchdown. That's a good sign. And also, I've seen Adrian Martinez or other QBs miss that wide open free shot throw to guys wide open. So, he did take that opportunity. Yeah, well, the passing it was ugly. I do think that there's hope, and I think we will see good Jeff Sims passing games.
No, I'm with you. I mean, like you said, Newbin had an insane game and looked absolutely amazing. And then Justin Wally, the other cornerback, who last year for them was a really good player and well graded on PFF as well. But this year, it seems like he took another step, and he played incredible in this game. Lights out. That was number 5 for you guys. And he was just a stud. And so you got to respect that. And then on the opposite side as well, with Trayvon Jones, who had another incredibly good game, number 2 for them. Like you said, I don't want to make excuses for Jeff Sims because his mistakes were inexcusable. So he had some awesome moments and looked really promising. But when you just literally go blind under pressure, it's unexcusable. And that was something we talked about heading into the year. Was Jeff Sims.
We're scared of the accuracy
issues under pressure. And just like last year where Casey Thompson was horrible under pressure, Jeff Sims was even worse at Georgia Tech while under pressure. He graded out pretty well when using play action and making the simple throws. But at any point under pressure, it was absolutely tragic. He had a 33.9 grade while under pressure, a 29.4 passing grade while under pressure in this game, which was about 42% of his dropbacks. So just things you absolutely hate to see. Only completed 33% of those passes. And that included both of his picks or 2 of his picks.
While the passing was ugly, I saw lots of promise, and I'm very excited going forward on Jeff Sims' decision making in the option game. I think
So that's where the upside probably is, right?
Yeah, I've seen out of all the QBs that we've had in the last decade, he ran the option the best that I have seen in that one game.
Like you're talking read options specifically, right?
Read option, the RPO, the speed option, on all the different looks that we had with him. I really like. Again, he froze guys. He knew when to give it to the running back, when to keep it. There was not a time where I was like, oh man, he should have given it to the other guy. That would have been the bigger play. I would love to see more of this going forward. I'm fine with Jeff Sims if we're a triple option offense.
Doubling down on that Georgia Tech offense?
I think so. I think that's how you win the most games.
I mean, essentially, he had like 3 horrible throws, and all 3 were pretty devastating interceptions.
Yeah.
And so, Kaliakmanis had just as many horrible throws, but only one turned into a pick.
I'm looking at you, Isaac.
So it's like, and you look at Jeff Sims' career, this was maybe his worst game of his career or second worst game of his career when it came to throwing the ball. So I really do think we just saw the worst of Jeff Sims this season. I mean, it's hard to get, hard to make too many more devastating mistakes in a game than that. But at the same time, I don't want to lose sight of the awesome throws he made across the middle of the field to Marcus Washington, some of these great decisions he made, and how he ran the ball.
First half to second half passing, the difference of Marcus Washington was huge.
Right, again, exactly.
Couldn't complete a pass first half. Second half, Marcus Washington comes in. There's a difference. Again, Billy Kemp. We'll just hop into the wide receiver conversation on the good and bad. Again, on the good side of the wide receivers, Marcus Washington, second half comes in, makes some great catches, does good things, looks like a solid Big Ten wide receiver that he was last year. I don't know if it was a step up from anything we saw last year. He looks more of the same, really good. Like, again,
reliable
Big Ten wide receiver, reliable, useful in the offense. And then Alex Bullock, the nice surprise of, again, he can't be a number 1 guy for us. Maybe not a number 2 guy for us either, but he's enough where he can get some catches, make some plays.
Agreed.
And hopefully the blocking comes through as the year goes on as well.
That was an issue for wide receivers in this game, was wide receiver blocking was not
blocking
good.
Very great.
No.
So yeah, that was a bad. So those were the 2 kind of positives, the wide receivers, but the ugly, again, in the pass game, it comes with Billy Kemp. Where was he? He had 2 targets, no catches. We didn't have any gadget plays for him. This dude is wearing our number 1, is one of the top 10 guys. Couldn't get a catch. And guess what?
Didn't touch the ball.
I didn't see him open enough for a catch. That's the other thing. I didn't see it. I didn't see a play where I'm like, oh man, should have thrown it to Billy Kemp there.
I mean, it's shocking, right? So, all right, raise your hand if you had the over on Heinrich Harburg having more catches than Billy Kemp and Thomas Fidone. Oh, no one? What?
Didn't have that on my bingo card.
Like, dude, insane, right? And I agree. It's shocking that we couldn't find a way to give him the ball. And maybe part of that's on Satterfield for not drawing up some things to get these guys in rhythm a little bit better. But at the same time, I agree. Like, usually targets are a skill stat, and he wasn't finding the space.
No.
In the spring game, we saw Kemp as kind of that outlet for Jeff Sims, and it just wasn't happening in this game. And so it's disappointing to not see that connection early on. And we need to see a better Billy Kemp moving forward.
When your main weapons are Nate Borkacher, Alex Bullock, and Marcus Washington for a half, that's not a recipe for success against a very solid defensive.
And the running backs only got 1 catch.
Yeah, Ramir Johnson. Again, nobody was involved in the pass.
He had 2 catches.
Yeah, Ramir had 2, and that was it. Again, I've been a Malachi guy. At this point, are you really saying that, like, again, the IGC...
He's hurt now.
More of the same before he got hurt. This is where, again, Xavier Betts and then not having Malachi out there.
Losing Xavier Betts. This is where it feels terrible right now. Yeah. Exactly. So my goodness, not an ideal situation for the pass catching. Onto the running backs here. Again, this is where you get interested with the conversation. Where the biggest plus of maybe the whole offense was the talent showed for Gabe Ervin. And you got to be excited about that, especially the massive run. Come on, baby. The hype's real there.
Yeah, and as well, and Ramir Johnson, again, in the kick return with the 60-yard kick return. Like, again, both our running backs showing good things. Again, exciting. They're getting usage. And, Anthony Grant had some solid stuff, but he didn't look as good as Gabe and yet got more touches. And
yeah, that was absolutely bizarre. Gabe did out-snap him, but did not out-touch him, which is, another situation where not only anyone saw that coming, considering the talk from the coaches heading into this game.
And it showed because he looked like the real deal. Again, 7.9 yards per carry. And then
that
take
run.
away the big run. And he's still averaging 4.7 yards per carry. And then if you subtract Anthony Grant's best run, like he's averaging like 2.2 yards a carry. So I taking the outliers away. So it's clear that Gabe Ervin was the guy. And
I mean, it was clear from the film. I mean, come on. That 27-yard run from Gabe Ervin was absolutely picture perfect.
Breaking arm tackles.
You smoked the dude at the point of attack, bounce off of him like it was nothing. The balance to the left side, the shiftiness, the cut was great. Get upfield, use your speed. It looked awesome. And that's what we were hoping to see from a Nebraska running back. And that looked like a legit Big Ten talent there. So moving forward, we have to see more Gabe Ervin and get him 10, 15 plus touches in these games.
Yeah.
And we're going to see less Anthony Grant, almost assuredly. And then, of course, I mean, the ugliest situation in the whole game, which we can probably get into right now, in the fourth quarter when you're trying to close out a game.
Yeah.
And the third string running back when asked about why he was the third string running back, Anthony Grant, Matt Rhule says it's because he's been fumbling in practice. Here comes the fourth quarter, the drive to put Minnesota away, and out walks Anthony Grant. We're like, what? Like, literally, we talked about it when he was out there.
No, Josh and I were like, did Gabe get hurt? We had this conversation multiple times in the stadium. Like, did he go down? I don't understand it from a lot of perspectives. Again, we talked about how he wanted to run the ball, and if you think that you have a bell cow back, which we had heard that we did all throughout the offseason, and then just disappear and go away from him, unless he got hurt, which he didn't.
Yeah, so I mean, in the press conference when Rhule was asked about why Anthony Grant was out there, he did kind of throw EJ Barthel, the running backs coach, under the bus and said, "Yeah, EJ, he made the call on that and whatever." So we have to talk about that or whatever. So not an ideal situation for Matt Rhule probably. But no. I would assume we're going to see a lot more Gabe Ervin moving forward. Obviously, I mean, that's probably one thing this coaching staff definitely learned.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the offensive line.
Oh, man.
A mixed bag of performances, honestly. Some good, some bad, some ugly. What are your thoughts?
I have some not mean things to say about the offensive line.
Okay.
I know. That's improvement. Last year, it was a recurring segment.
A barren desert.
Yes, there was no life, no hope. We were all dying of thirst because of the offensive line, who was the worst part of our team, and it wasn't close. And there was some good things, and especially on the pass protection by most of the guys. Actually, 4 of the guys played a really good game, including Ethan Piper, who that was really not the case from last year. Again, more of the same, more built on, and I do see a lot of promise for a lot of the offensive line. Ben Scott didn't play an amazing game, but it was solidly average enough for us. And Bryce Benhart, one of the worst, the biggest culprits of last year. I just wondered where he went mentally. On vacation half the time. Did well in pass protection, which was not
overall
the case last
solid
year.
game.
Yeah. Again, overall solid game for him. So that's exciting. And for a lot of the part, where Matt Rhule was like, they weren't as bad as we thought they were, I could kind of agree, except for one guy who seems to still be stuck in the past. Didn't change, just as bad as before, an eyesore to the team. One of the main reasons that we lost the game, continuously over and over, we'd look at the replay when Minnesota had a great rush, and you'd be like, who was the problem? And over and over and over again, it was our pal, number 69, nice, Turner Corcoran.
Yeah,
Take a bow, my friend. Take a bow.
So out of the 5 pressures, at least according to PFF, 3 of them were on Turner Corcoran. It's tough. He ends up getting a 0 pass grade blocking or pass blocking rating on PFF, which
and it looked like it.
In 2021, he was the lowest graded tackle in all of college football in the entire Division I.
The worst with
a 0. To be fair, there was like 3 others tied with him at 0.
And we've said this before, and I will, I guess, keep having to say it until this man gets off the field forever. Please ride the bench. Turner Corcoran.
I mean, and this is the situation, right? So Teddy Prohaska ideally will be back maybe next week, or maybe definitely by the next Big Ten game is the hope. So by Michigan.
He couldn't even manage a 1.
The issue is that,
nothing?
Hopefully 0? He can stay healthy. That's been a big problem. So at this point with Turner, you're as good as your weakest link on the offensive line, and that seems to be the situation at this point. The only other thing I want to mention is as a negative was on this offense is probably the blocking of the wide receiving core was extremely underwhelming.
Bad.
At best. It was bad. And one of the biggest culprits for why we weren't effectively moving the ball. And so
yeah,
I would even say like also the tight ends, especially in the run blocking situation, weren't great either. But especially the wide receivers, we need to see a way, way better job from them on the edge, sealing the edge and creating some lanes.
Is Fedoni in the ugly for you? He's in the ugly for me. Again, not a single catch. I mean, didn't look great in blocking either. I mean,
he was all right in pass block, but in run block, especially not great. I mean, overall, the conversation and how the offense played, like, what are your thoughts on Satterfield, the game plan, the identity for the offense? Like, what were your thoughts? Like, do you feel like it was a decent game plan? The approach, where you at?
I do feel like they understood the strengths of the team pretty well.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And I liked that a lot. Again, I liked that they were running Jeff Sims. It was definitely very effective. You know, the running back decisions I wasn't happy with, and that will get cleared up, I believe. Why the game feels so bad to us Husker fans and why we're so frustrated, I believe solely rests on the shoulders of that halftime blunder.
The INTs aren't ideal either.
Yeah, I mean, that stinks. But for me, we hired Matt Rhule because we believed he was an NFL caliber coach, because he wouldn't make the mistakes of the past and that he would be able to manage the game.
Right.
And what we got at that halftime, when we had seen, 12-man personnel on the field, we had already seen false starts. We took a long time to line up, and that's fine. That was deliberate, somewhere in the middle. A lot of fans, we didn't get to see, it looks like Gabe Irvin got in for the touchdown, like legit. And so if you call a timeout there, I mean, the Big Ten was trying to give it to us, but the fact that we ran the play before, okay, you call a timeout there, maybe you don't have to run another play and get on that line. Who cares if Minnesota gets their big guys in? Jeff Sims is going to score that ball. Well, Josh and I are screaming our heads off, timeout, 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 and then we don't. False start leads to a pick, a 7-point swing. Just heartbreaking.
I want to argue the other side for Matt Rhule, at least, because he's trying to catch the defense off guard, get to the line quick, and preserve the timeout in case in case the sneak doesn't work, because then you have the timeout, you can call, set up a play. But then on the opposite side of things, of course, you have a new team, a new offense. You're starting multiple young players like Thomas Fedoni. You have a new quarterback.
100% of the time.
Young starting offense. Guys like Thomas Fedoni are playing their first snaps. Things are going to go wrong if you're trying to hurry this thing up too fast. And so for me, that's why you have to call a timeout there, because inevitably something's going to go wrong. And
it did.
There it is. Thomas Fedoni false starts. And then exactly. Then it gets even worse because things start to spiral. Even though you're trying to preserve the timeout, I get it. But at some point, you've got to take into factor that your team's so young, something very well could go wrong.
All the other stuff of why we lost the game, I can live with. I can't stomach. That was just a rudimentary, easy mistake that was so easily cleaned up. And I'm still just so frustrated about. And I don't think I'll probably never get over that on just how dumb that was. So it at least cost you a chance at overtime. Not the game.
There were 4 or 5 different chances that cost the game.
Few inches away from the goal line and then not walking away with points. It's so bad.
So, okay, long story short, we sound like we absolutely hate this team and we hate Matt Rhule and we think he's Scott Frost and that we think we're going to never win a game again. But that's actually not the case. I'm actually extremely positive about this team. I think there's a really good chance we can still make a bowl game this season. So with that said, let's transition on to the defense, because there's a lot of good things to talk about with this defense when it comes to how well they performed and seriously dominated against a respectable offense in Minnesota with respectable talent over the field, respectable wide receiver core. And this team put up an insane show basically up until the end with, almost a spotless performance with how bad of a position they were put in by the offense over and over and over and again.
Yeah, it's really exciting and definitely, again, this is a strong Big Ten defense, and a middle of the pack Big Ten defense is one of the best defenses.
Very good national defense. Yeah, exactly.
Great nationally. Wow, we might not be the best defense in the Big Ten. We are up. We're definitely a top 3rd defense in the country, and I can pretty confidently say that, which is great. That means we're going to.
Come on, that's insane! What a turnaround!
Yeah. And for me, it starts with Deshaun Singleton, who we had heard hype about in the camp, and that came to fruition. And
yeah, man.
I'm so excited. Just right away, he set the tone. Good hits, like solid coverage. His hip movement, like just so many of the details that he had.
He flew.
I cannot wait. Yeah, I can't wait. Like it's amazing. I didn't see this coming, and it wasn't just coach talk. Deshaun Singleton is actually a very, very solid player.
I mean, again, going into this game, our biggest worry was how are we going to stop the run? Like, what's this front seven going to look like? Are they going to be athletic enough to get to the edges? Are they going to tackle in space? And first of all, this is one of the best tackling games we've had in years at Nebraska. It was really good tackling. I mean, almost the whole game wrapped up, made open field tackles. We allowed like basically 0 big plays. And there's overall,
there's 2 bad tackles that just come to mind. That's it. Like just 2 really missed ones.
Right, exactly. 2 kind of blatantly, obviously bad tackles. But outside of that, I mean, the consistency throughout almost the whole game was fantastic. So you got to start there with a really, really exciting moment or aspect for this defense. And then you talk about the secondary. Nice. The 3-3-5 came to play and looked effective. I mean, basically the only way you attack the 3-3-5 is in the flats. Like the most effective way to do that is in the flats and finding space underneath. And that's what Minnesota did. They were willing to take, the small plays, and it came back to bite us in that final drive, considering we gave up the 4 or 5 or 6 yard plays that allowed them to kick the field goal. But besides that, again, I mean, only allowing 10 points up until the final 3 seconds of the game, where, with 4 picks or 4 turnovers from your offense is pretty impressive. And to hold Minnesota to under 60 yards of rushing,
exciting.
Come on, man. That's as hype as it gets. And so you have some breakout players. You start with Singleton, like you said, but like even a guy like John Bullock, seriously, I mean, he might just be the real deal too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see this. He had some great pass rush and going to be a really solid player for us. And we didn't know our linebacking core went from, a lot of question marks that Josh and I didn't know how we were going to fill to, man, we have some real guys that can play some football for us.
And it's crazy, like when you put in John Bullock, who's obviously more athletic, moves faster than like Nick Henrich did last season. Yeah. Suddenly it's like, wow, we can get around the field. We were making some tackles in space on the edge. Bullock was a really effective pass rusher, really good in delayed blitzes. And he had a handful of pressures in this game, 4 according to PFF. The movement, the athleticism, the fluidity from John Bullock, and it seemed like a perfect fit for this middle of this defense, kind of playing that basically the Mike or the middle linebacker role in the 3-3-5 essentially, with Luke Reimer definitely dropping back into coverage more often. Overall, just really excited about what we saw from really both of them, but especially John Bullock.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said too, down that linebacker core, Reimer had one of his best tackling games in his career, which he does seem to play well game ones. I will note, but I think that there is a lot of promise there, and I was a lot happier with it. Again, not as good like as a pass rusher as Bullock was, but again, in coverage, really solid, had some tough assignments, obviously Brevin Spanford and others, and did a good job, as well as Isaac Gifford as well in coverage. They're solid linebackers for us and really fit this 3-3-5 well.
Going into this game, if you would have said, all right, we're going to hold Brevin Spanford to 5 receptions for 45 yards, and we're going to hold Minnesota to 2.2 yards per carry, 55 total yards, what would you have said happened in this game? We dominated.
Yeah. We would win. Yeah.
Like, dude, like,
I mean, if you told me that we held them to 10 points, then that's all you tell me. I feel like we win.
Exactly. So
or 13.
You come away from this team and this defense, and you look at like Omar Brown. This suddenly you feel really good about the safety situation.
With Omar Brown, Simon, Quentin Newsome played a good
Singleton,
game.
And who knows? Maybe one day we'll get Buford back this season. If you have all 3 of those guys there subbing in and out, I mean, we have a hard hitting secondary, a fast moving secondary, and 2 corners who seem to be extremely reliable. And Quentin Newsome played a really, really good game as well. So, I mean, the work here from the defensive staff to take this defense from, the beginning of last year was absolutely awful. Obviously, tackling helped. By the second half of last season, they were a respectable enough defense. But to take them up to this next step where we're holding Minnesota to these levels of production, huge shout out.
I'm excited to see us. The ways to improve is in zone. I thought there is definitely in the linebackers, there is some room for improvement.
In coverage.
In coverage, in zone coverage. And also as pass rush keeps going. But but that was known going into the season that pass rush was going to be a problem. I'm excited for Tony White. I'm excited for Tony White. I'm excited for what he's done. I liked the aggressiveness and I liked a lot of the calls. The only thing was that, again, at the end of the game, where I felt like we played really soft and that allowed those little dump off passes that gave the yardage that ended up getting them into field goal position to win the game. But besides that, I liked our foot on the gas mentality and the sending it from different ways. This is going to be a solid, fun defense to watch that is going to be a problem for other Big Ten teams.
Right. I mean, that was even with Tyler Robinson getting kicked out after halftime. He's going to miss the beginning of this Colorado game.
That's ugly. The penalties on defense were ugly.
Oh, my. Yeah. So, I mean, the penalties in general were ugly. I mean, seven in total in the game?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the last thing you want to see. And so the D-line is still in a tough spot. Sure. Did we see some positive moments? Like Nash Hutmacher looked pretty good in this game. And that's something you really like to see is the big boy getting some, feasting up front.
Yeah.
And maybe you see Tyler Robinson get better and better. He had a few moments where he had some pressure as well. But, right now we're still looking for that third. I mean, Gunnarsson did not have a good game. Cam Lenhart had a really horrible game as a true freshman.
Cam played bad.
I mean, first game of his career, he ended up with 40 snaps in this game for Cam Lenhart, and then actually 11 snaps for Prince Will Uman-Milan. So 51 total snaps for true freshmen on the defensive line. And not a great performance from either of them. But yeah, Cameron Lenhart especially, tough start for his career.
This O-line is not even anywhere close to the cream of the crop that we will see in the Big Ten. It'll be even less pressure unless we continue to improve and find more and find what works. There definitely is. Again, Tony White got to see which linebackers can really create the pressure for me.
Oh, we didn't even mention Javin Wright, who played a really good game too in the secondary. So it's like you look across this board, and I mean, Gifford didn't play a great game, and the defense still looked like this. So to me, if you ever found a pass rush, like if Chief Borders or MJ Sherman or one of these guys steps up, then suddenly this defense could be absolutely insane. So
yeah,
I'm pretty excited about the future of this defense and what we could do. So the other really good thing to mention here is special teams. I mean, this overall was a huge improvement, specifically on kick coverage and kick return. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned earlier, we saw Ramir Johnson rip off the huge return, and we really kept Minnesota in check. Nothing too devastating in the punt game and in the kicking game. And I like to see what Billy Kemp was trying to do with these punts. He was getting creative. He seems reliable, and he's definitely confident.
Yeah, I definitely like that.
Too confident.
The only was in punt coverage that we got a little bit closer than comfort for Minnesota getting close to those
blocks.
Yeah, they were coming closer when we were punting. So, but yeah, I really like what Ed Foley did. And yeah, I mean, when is the last time Nebraska had like a 60-yard kick return? Or even any yards in a punt, like just 1 yard improvement? I couldn't tell. I don't even know if we did one last season. So it's nice to see us taking risks and using that third phase of the football game to our advantage.
So overall now, let's just talk big picture. And basically there's two sides to this argument. There's one that is, this is the building block. We covered the line. We played better than what was expected. We were so close. We had 4 turnovers, yet still had them literally on the ropes multiple times to close out this game. We're as close as it gets to taking that next step. This is the building block for Matt Rhule to build the special teams he's going to build this season and into the future. Or the other argument is it's more of the same. This is Scott Frost 2.0. We had the coaching errors. We had the turnovers again. We blew the game. We blew the lead. We had a 94% chance to win this game on ESPN and ended up blowing it just like the games of 2021 and 2022. It's more of the same, and we're in for a long year with a horrible offense, and nothing's been fixed on the offensive side. So which side do you lean on, and what do you think is the best narrative here?
Matt Rhule, we're gonna be in for the long haul, so I can't obviously write anything about his career, what he's gonna do here, but I still feel confident. I still have a lot of hope for this season. I think there's a lot of good things. A loss is a loss, and I like that Matt Rhule said there is no moral victories. The fact of the matter is a clutch gene can be developed, and for Nebraska to win, a Nebraska player has to take it. You know what? Tyler Nubin, he took it for Minnesota, and their wide receivers and Kaliak Manis, they on 4th and 10 need a touchdown. They took the game. They took the game. Brandon Spann forward at the end of the game to drive down on that drive, took the game. We did not. Isaac Gifford had a chance. He had a chance on that 3rd and 10 with the pick that he dropped, he had a chance to take the game and lock that in for Nebraska.
Anthony Grant had a chance to take the game.
Yeah, he had a big run. That was a first down. He had a chance to take the game.
Jeff Sims.
Yeah, Jeff Sims had a chance to take the game through a pick. Yeah, Matt Rhule, again, had a position to take points. It's halftime. He did not take them. But I think our team can take it, and I'm proud of the defense on the improvements that they made. Again, the offensive line seems promising. It's just find a replacement for Turner Corcoran for the love of all that is good. I think that will be in a good spot. The fact is you can either take it or you can let fate decide. And we've been letting fate decide for a few years now, and fate doesn't like us. So start taking it. That's what we've
right.
learned.
No, for sure.
Start taking the game.
I mean, I'm with you. I think I lean the positive side for sure. Some people are doom and gloom right now online. I definitely don't think that's the right mentality. I mean, I get why some fans rolled their eyes when Rhule said like this is just the beginning, and it's things that the fan base has heard before from Scott Frost. But like we talked about
Scott
before,
Frost lost so many games.
That's what I'm saying.
He used every excuse.
But Frost kept saying we're close. But after 4 or 5 years, there's your team has an identity. With Matt Rhule, I think there's still a lot of time here to build that new identity. A good team will take a bad loss like this, or a loss where they made a lot of mistakes, and build upon it and find the mistakes, eliminate the mistakes, and improve them next time. A bad team will compound these mistakes and stack bad loss on bad loss. So I think the jury's still out on what the future for Matt Rhule is going to look like, and what the future of this team's going to look like. We have a real opportunity next week against Colorado to right this ship and to make a statement that the mistakes and the losses aren't going to compound for us. And that on the road in what's going to be a hostile competitive environment in Colorado, yes, that we can come out and make some plays and really take this season back. If we compete and we had every chance to win against Minnesota, like you could argue the opposite, like the really positive aspects that we had every chance to win against Minnesota. So basically against any team this year, maybe besides Michigan, we should have a very, very good chance to win. So from our perspective, or from the fans' perspective, like you could say 10-2 is still on the table. Like we had every reason to win this game against Minnesota. So if we had every reason to dominate, then why couldn't we beat Wisconsin? Why couldn't we beat Iowa? I think that's the narrative you have to take if you're the team and if you're a fan moving forward. Yeah. There's opportunity here, and Matt Rhule and the squad can definitely go out and take it in the coming few weeks, even though, there are some question marks for sure that we'll have to figure out how that works out over the upcoming week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this breakdown. If you guys did, drop your comments down below. We want to hear your guys' instant reactions, your guys' thoughts. Check out the Discord. The Discord is free for everyone to join, and we have all of our conversations, our live reactions there, and you can support us on Patreon, where you're going to get behind the scenes content from all of us. We already just posted our PFF grades reaction and our breakdown of the Minnesota film on Patreon. So if you're interested in checking that out and supporting us, we appreciate that. Also, we're wearing some merch. Peep the merch. Watch out, guys. That might just be coming soon, some clothing lines, so be on the lookout for that. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Big Red Homestead, and we will see you next time. Go Big Red, baby.